Have you ever wondered what business analysts actually do? I have been an analyst for over 10 years, and today I will be sharing with you what a typical day in the life of a business analyst looks like. I'd like to state though that no 2 days are the same, and that is what I absolutely love about this job. So come with me as we go through the day together. It's going to be an exciting one. So first things first, once I'm logged into my system, I check my calendar to see what meetings I have for the day. This gives me the opportunity to plan and gather information and documents ahead of the meeting. Today, I have 5 meetings in my calendar, which are 2 stand-up meetings and 3 stakeholder engagement meetings. Let's start with a stand-up. A stand-up is a time-boxed event within the Scrum methodology. It is usually between 15 to 30 minutes where members of a team working on a project comes together every single day, same time, to discuss progress on the project. In a stand-up meeting, 3 questions are asked and answered. The questions are, what did you do yesterday? What are you planning to do today? Any impediments or blockers? So a real life example will be like, yesterday I worked on user story A. Today I plan on continuing working on user story A, and I have an impediment because I'm waiting on team member B to give me some documents to help with my analysis in order to complete user story A. So that would be a typical response for a stand-up. So my first stakeholder engagement for today is around the JML process. I work within the identity and access management space, and a key part of my role is to ensure that users within an organization have the right access to the right system for the right reason at the right time. I know that sounds like a lot, but I'll break the JML process down into sizable chunks for you to understand. So JML stands for joiners, movers, and leavers. This process looks after when a user joins the organization and the access gets provisioned, when they move role within an organization and the accesses get changed, and when they leave an organization and the accesses get deprovisioned. So I'll give you a real life example. Say for example, I join a new organization and I get my laptop and I get my login. And once I log in, I see all this Outlook, Jira, Microsoft Web, and whatever, you name it. That is the joiners process. Before I joined the organization, the process would have been triggered to provision all of these accesses needed for me to carry out my day-to-day activity. So the process will look at the role that I've been offered and look at all the application required for me to carry out that role conveniently, and it will provision access to those applications before I join. And that's the joiners process. So once I'm in the organization, I have access to these things, ideally on day 1. The movers process is, for example, I decide I no longer wanted to be a business analyst and I want to be a solutions analyst, for example, or an architect, and then I move role from being a business analyst to an architect. The system will trigger a workflow that will look at the access that I currently have and see if they will still be required for my architect role. If not, they will be deprovisioned. What that means is the access will be removed. And if there are any accesses that will be required for the architect role that I currently do not have, the system will provision that automatically. So that's the movers process. And then there is the leavers process. So for example, I decide I no longer want to work for the organization and I leave. It will look at all the accesses that I currently have and deprovision those accesses. It will remove those accesses. So that is the JML process. I have been looking at the as-is, which is what we currently have in place, identifying pain points and areas of improvement. And I've finished my analysis, and today I'll be presenting that back to my stakeholders to get their inputs and validation. And once that has been done, I will start looking to work with them to put in place a 2B. So a 2B will be a future state. So that's my first stakeholder engagement for today, which I am looking forward to. My second stakeholder engagement for today is around a regulatory requirements. So the auditors came in last year because we work in a very controlled environment and have picked up some gaps. So we're currently working to remediate those gaps. So what I've done is looked at the requirements, analyzed it, understood what needs to be done. And what we've decided to do with the stakeholder is to put in tactical remediation in place. What that means is we're putting in short-term solution pending the time that we put in strategic solution. So tactical is short-term, strategic is long-term. So I'll give you a real-life example. Say, for example, you get a new job in a very remote area with no access, no train access, no bus or nothing. So for you to be able to get to this job every single day, you need a car or someone to drive you there. So in this real life scenario, a tactical remediation would be to get a taxi driver that will pick you up from home every single day and drop you off at work. In as much as this is not a long-term solution, it gives you the opportunity to fulfill those requirements of getting to work every single day. Whilst we're using this tactical remediation to fulfill the requirements, we start looking at strategic solutions. A strategic solution in this scenario would be to actually buy a car to take you to work every day. So whilst you're looking for the ideal car, you're saving money for that car, you're getting a taxi to drop you off and pick you back every single day. And then you eventually put a strategic solution in place, which is actually buying your own car, which takes you to work every single day. I hope that makes it a bit easier to understand, because I know there's so many, it's quite difficult with all the big jargons and words. But breaking it down into real life scenarios is something that really helped me at the beginning of my career. So I'll be meeting with a stakeholder this morning to present the tactical remediation that we're going to put in place. We're currently looking in the market for a strategic solution. And then, yeah, that's the second stakeholder engagement meeting. My third stakeholder engagement meeting is going to be with my senior architect and the project manager. I have been working on a high-level diagram for a secret management solution that we're planning to put in place. So I'll be presenting that back to them today to get their feedback and make amendments if needed. And if they're happy, just baseline that. So the next steps from there will be to put in place like use cases, sequence diagram, and data flow diagram to understand the flow of data from the beginning to the end of the process. So I'm looking forward to that as well. It'll be interesting. Aside all the meetings in my diary, I have blocked time in my diary to actually get some work done. I find this very useful because you can get into a position where you're just all over the place, not knowing what to focus on. So I put in focus time for the different work streams that I'm working on. For example, I elicited some requirements from stakeholders last week, and I'm currently documenting those requirements to be presented back to the stakeholder at some point today. So I've put 2 hours in my diary to dedicate myself to actually doing those requirements and getting them finalized to be presented. So yeah, come with me. It's going to be an interesting day. That's my first meeting calling. So I've literally just finished the engagement meeting with the stakeholder, and they seem really happy with the high-level diagram. So the solutions architect and the project manager seems happy. So I will be progressing to the data flow diagram and the sequence diagram. So yeah, happy days. So it's 12 o'clock and it's lunchtime, and I'm feeling very drained at this point in time. I have done 2 out of the 3 stakeholder engagement meetings that I have for the day. I have also attended one of my Scrum stand-ups. So I am just going to take my lunch break now, go into the house, get something to eat, and feel refreshed for the second half of the day. So I've just come back from my lunch break. I take lunch for an hour, but now I am going to be diving back into work. I have the stakeholder engagement meeting coming up and my stand up, the second stand up for the day. Afterwards, I will be spending some more time on the JML process map that I mentioned earlier on and tidying up the requirements document. So my meeting starts in literally 3 minutes. I don't usually take my lunch break very close to a meeting, but it's just been a very busy morning and I had to take my 1 hour lunch break. So it is back to back, ready to go. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Join me. I was going to ask about that. So I've just finished my last stakeholder meeting for today. As you can see, I look a bit tired now. I'm not looking as fresh as I did this morning, and that's because I've been chatting all day. And that's the part of the job that a lot of people don't talk about, because as a business analyst, you spend most of your time in meetings. So you're literally sometimes back to back in meetings, chatting and listening. And it's usually not one of those meetings where you can just sit and doze off. You have to be actively listening because you're capturing information, you're collaborating with your stakeholders, you're keeping them engaged. And at the same time, you're trying to capture as much notes as possible because you need to then document and go back to the stakeholders to validate that you've actually captured everything discussed. So you have to be in your A game all the time. I mean, for me, it's enjoyable because I like chatting, but sometimes you can get a bit draining. Like today, I really want my bed at this point, but I've still got one more meeting to go, which is the stand up, and that is usually 15 to 30 minutes. But at this point, I just want my bed and I just want to go to sleep. But yeah, that's what we do for the job, but I enjoy it. So yeah, stay with me. That's my last meeting done for the day. I made it. Yeah, I've just completed my meeting for the day. It's 10 minutes to 5, which means I have 10 minutes to go. So I'll start shutting down the computer. But before I do that, what I usually do at the end of the day is to create time in my diary for the next day for the things that I need to get done based on the meetings from today. So tomorrow, for example, I will block some time in my diary to review the JML, to do some of the requirements, and to work on the what's it called, regulatory requirements that I'm working on, so that I stay focused. I know what I need to do for the day once I log in tomorrow. Aside from my regular meetings, I know what work I need to focus to get done. So yeah, that's what a day in the life of a business analyst looks like. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope it's giving you some insight into what we do. Um, it's a very, very lovely job. So yeah, like I say, I work from home, so I don't have a commute back home. It literally going to take me 1 minute to walk across my garden into my kitchen and my home. But yeah, that's what a day in the life of a BA looks like. I hope you've learned something new today, and I hope to see you in my next video. Thank you for joining.